You are listening to Groundbreaking Women in Conversation. Today I have the great pleasure to talk to somebody very special, one of my favorite people, Judith DeLozier. She's one of the original developers of NLP, the field of neuro-linguistic programming. She's an author, a developer who brought the somatic wisdom connection, the body-mind connection, into the field, a systemic thinker, an author and co-author, a recognized presenter, master trainer, and facilitator globally. Rightfully, she received the Life Achievement Award in NLP. And for many of us, she is a muse, an inspiration, a model who walks the talk, and I am feeling very blessed to call her my friend, my colleague, my aunt, my mother, my grandmother, and simply one of the human beings I love to have a chat. Enjoy
Hi, Judy.
the
It's
conversation.
great to see you.
Hey, Miss Eva, it's great to see you too. I have been greatly enjoying our little conversations.
Me too.
I want you to notice that I have on my mini Tavros, the Minotaur from Greece, just to remind us of these epic times and quite mythic times that we're living in right now.
It is quite epic times, isn't it?
It is. It is.
So I'm really excited to have you accept the invitation to have a conversation for everybody.
It's my pleasure.
I guess I want to briefly introduce, from my perspective, you. To me, Judith DeLozier is one of the feminine original NLP people that has introduced the body into the whole neuro-linguistic programming field.
Hey, just try living without it, you know?
I want to say you, for me, you're an inspiration. You're like the muse in the original sense, like starting to play the music and evoking the music in people. You certainly did for me. You were my teacher. You were my definitely awakener and inspiration, not just professionally, but also personally. And I've been admiring you on this very long journey of my own personal and professional development. And a lot of people know you as an author, as an amazing leader in the NLP field, as a systemic thinker, but for the most part, as just a beautiful human being.
Thank you. That really touches my heart.
And she's the one who walks the talk.
Well, I try.
And I find that so important. So I think that was one of the reasons for the invitation. As we were talking before, it's a crisis time. In maybe the original sense, of the Greeks. In Greek, the crisis actually means the turning point. When you think about this in terms of well-being or health, it could either way go into not going so well or turning towards health. So if we think about that, what's your take on about the idea of this being a really challenging times, but more so a crisis point that maybe lead into a certain direction?
Yes, I think a crisis is a great, beautiful word, a great Greek word, as you reminded me. And it also, has that sense of it's a crossroads. It's a decision time. It's a decision point time. People are being called now to kind of deal with what happens when you're having to sit in home for 2 months or 6 weeks. Maybe you haven't done that in your life, maybe like me or you're doing this sort of solo alone, and maybe friends or family get to connect in by various other ways, and all the kind of thought viruses and ideas that come up which are not so healthy for us because stress alone is probably one of the biggest things dampening our immune system. So the whole continuum is happening. I think,
Yeah.
you know, some of us are still in that amazing space of trying to go, can I keep my breath moving here? Can I keep my feet on the ground? Can I sort of hold and manage all the things that are going on inside in terms of emotion and thoughts, just thoughts? I think then there are some of us in the space where we're starting to kind of open up and go, wow, you know, anything is possible. What, you know, what of all these things that I've learned about myself and learned about teaming with other people and learned about flexibility, how am I going to bring that now into the world in a way that promotes what's most needed? And I guess for me, what's most needed is things like developing resilience by being flexible in your mind and flexible in your spirit and flexible in your emotional world, cognitively, that all these things are practices for resilience, which will let us come back hopefully bigger, better, brighter, smarter, more systemic, systemic in our approach to life and our beautiful earth, who is celebrating like crazy, right? She's so going, yahoo! And there's a part of me that goes, not all of me, of course, but there's a part of me that goes, she is me, you know?
Yeah.
She I am her. She is me. I'm just part of that giant, amazing net of connections. So if she's happy, I should be happy.
Right.
You
So
know,
meaning when you look out in the nature and how the nature is just presenting itself so beautiful in its fullness of the season, that you're kind of seeing yourself, this is me, I am her and she's me, and
that's right.
happy and looks like this beautiful.
Yeah.
A part of me can be so happy too.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think that's the settling down, a part of what we need to bring in this new space, you know, is more of this deeper connection to this beautiful environment that we all share, that we're just a part of. And that shift in how I think about that relationship. It has to be right relation.
Yeah.
And which is what relationship is about. It's about having right relationship. And then I have to take responsibility for that.
Yeah.
As a thing. And I think it's a time for people to step up. And when they step up, take their positions, as Nick LaForce would say in his poem, you know, 7 billion years of us evolving to this moment, you know, and this moment is yelling at humanity. Not asking nicely, not teasing sweetly, but saying, hey, wake up. So
you do see this as a wake up call, I take it. Like kind of the universe is saying, wake up everybody, this is my way of sending you out signals that you have to look at relationships and how you're relating to me in a deeper sense, and reorganize yourself in the relationship to the world. Yeah. I mean, I think that this idea that, you know, I can go, am I a reflection of nature? I am nature. You know, and nature is me. That you know, that's it. That inexorable bond between me and the environment in which I live. Yeah. As a human being, I can get off balance. We all know about it. Oh my God, I'm off balance and I'm all messed up, and now I have all these thought viruses and all these emotions, and I don't know what to do with it. And Well, the big system is sending a message going off balance, trying to rebalance. It's, you know, and it's a beautiful dynamic that's always moving. And I think that's the awareness of, you know, this big pattern interruption. If I want to think about Milton Erickson, you know, it's a big cosmic interruption of all these patterns that we took for granted, that we assumed would always be there, that nothing would ever change about that. Yeah. Hello, that's the wake up. Yeah, totally.
Nothing's permanent.
Yeah. I sometimes call the symptoms, or I mean, now we're experiencing on a collective level. And so it's not a symptom that I may individually experience, but it's kind of like a collective symptom, if you wish. And it's the way I see is like on one level, Virginia Satir, the mother of family therapy, developed a change process to describe the different levels we're moving through. And she said that we have a status quo, so kind of the pattern that how we know ourselves and how we do life as a usual. And then there's a new element coming into this pattern, being introduced, and that could be liked or disliked. And in this case, this invisible creature. And
the invisible orb,
this invisible guest. And the new element will push us into chaos. And what she liked to say was chaos is needed in order for us to grow. But the other side to the coin is just because we're in chaos, it doesn't necessarily mean that we will grow automatically. It needs to carve out a decision point, a choice point, and a new way and a new practice in order to really commit ourselves to a new way of being and living. And I actually heard, I had a conversation with the star man, I call him. It's an astrologist. And so he was saying in the constellation of the stars, they actually talk about a certain constellation that takes place usually about every 32 or 36 years. So 1982 was the virus of AIDS, and so they said it taught us a lot about intimate relationships and how that we need to reorganize ourselves in terms of relationships. And again, these years later, is another wake-up call for us to find a new quality of relationship, but this time it's more about how we relate to the world and how the world is relating to us. So in the bigger spectrum. So it does sound like you have a similar idea to that.
Yeah, I mean, it brings up a lot of ideas in the sense that we create a whole lot of different structures in our world, social structures and family structures and educational structures, family, all of these, religion, economic, all these layers and layers and layers and layers and layers and layers of filters and structure, which we sort of hold on to as not changeable. We invest ourselves in them, and that's our nervous system investing. The underneath that is then we forget. We forget in a way that nothing is permanent.
Yeah.
Nothing is permanent.
Yeah.
And we just forget. And I think this is where Gregory Bateson really informs me quite deeply, which is, we don't really create anything new of very much importance. We innovate.
Yeah.
We innovate. We take something that's always been there in the ground maybe and put it together in a new fashion and make an airplane. Or we make it a better airplane.
Right.
But the most important things that we really do and remember are the things we've forgotten.
Yes.
And, these incidents of viruses, for example, for me, it is about the big picture, and it's about being in right relationship to the environment and the animals from which they come.
Right.
That for me is part of the biology of it, the science of it. What can we do from get-go to just be in right relationship with our world? It goes back to that. It's not an individual's hero's journey anymore.
Right.
It's not. Thich Nhat Hanh said Buddha will not come back as an individual. It will come back as a group, a community of loving kindness. And Joseph Campbell said the same thing. He said it's not an individual's hero's journey anymore. It's group hero's journey. It's human hero's journey right now. It's our species hero's journey right now, in a way.
I mean, I do really feel that this time is also inviting us to figure out the difference between human doing and human being, and
absolutely
experientially dig into this experience. What does it mean to be a being that is human rather than a doing? And I have my own, my own experience with that, where everything changed for me. The way I was planning out things in my professional life has completely put on a pause. And I have to admit, for really I don't want to say the better, but for good reasons. I really felt now I'm invited to, however I design workshops to do family coaching or family therapy tools, this is the workshop. I'm invited to come now and really apply everything that I've learned myself. And
myself,
exactly.
Apply it to myself, yeah.
Exactly. And the interesting thing is I keep listening to my own teaching voice. I would say sometimes things to my student that I borrowed from Russell Delman. If you do meditation, he sometimes likes to invite us to say, stay comfortable in the discomfort, or find comfort in the discomfort. When you sit for a long time in meditation, maybe feel some sort of discomfort sitting on the cushion or something. So you would say, don't push it to be too painful. I don't want that, but find the comfort that is in the discomfort. And I've been really noticing as the social distancing is inviting me to retreat in my own home and sign up for the workshop I haven't officially signed up for. I'm actually sitting on my cushion, metaphorically speaking, and I'm really finding comfort in the discomfort and noticing actually that I find my copings that get activated, like I like to distract myself, for example, or I like to placate. So I'm going into serving other people a little bit overly. But as I sit with the copings that start to get activated in me, and quietly breathe with them and stay with them and hold them, I'm noticing how this whole new area is opening up in me, and I'm actually enjoying the retreat I've never signed up for.
Exactly.
In a deeper learning experience, and I'm meeting a lot of elements, and it feels it has an opportunity to actually do some inner healing work. And inner integrational work. Could you agree?
Well, I mean, I think that's absolutely one of the decision points in the crossroad. What you're describing is, what do you do with that? What do you do with that river of emotion and that river of thought, the good ones and the not so good ones?
Yeah.
What do you do with being comfortable with not knowing? Anybody who's ever learned anything has had to open up a space of not knowing for a moment to know something new. Everybody who's ever learned anything has had to let go of a point of clarity in order to not know, have a little confusion, and find a new point of clarity. So we know how to do that.
Right.
Having the structure shaken at so many different levels, and having a shared experience of humanity somehow brings it to another space. And I know what you're saying about, this is the calling now. This is the calling now. If I have something, or you have something that can be shared with any community right now that is going to help or support or administer to or be in service to humanity, this is the time. The future ain't what it used to be, on the one hand, as Yogi Berra, the famous ball player, said. And we're designed by nature to set goals and to make ourselves comfortable so we can easily pass on our genes. And not our Levi's, but our other genes.
That's right.
We're built to do that as a species, and if that is, as they say in evolutionary psychology, ingrained at the cellular level, we are now in a moment of becoming aware of going, wait a minute. If I just bring awareness and breath to that, wow, that doing, maybe that's just part of my makeup that comes from the, just like the gut feelings or the enteric brain. I mean, maybe it's just a part of all that makeup that I have in order to have a more successful life and the possibility of passing on my species. But awareness of that and breath in that allows me to have much more space and choice about it, because then I recognize it. And I think that's really important. Yeah.
So if you take the time and like the challenges that it presents right now, and I guess also, like social distancing, isolation we have to do, or physical distancing, which I find is a better term. Like when you look at that, how do you see that as a metaphor for what we need to learn about this?
Well, I mean, it's a great question. You and I talked a little bit about it before. I can give you an example. This morning I got an email from a very dear friend. And he, like myself, is a very physical person.
Yeah.
I hug everybody. I don't care who they are. I even hug myself these days, right? And I touch, it's just natural. It's just so much a part of me. And this friend of mine said, he said, I'm having a really hard time with that because, touching and hugging is like oxygen to me.
Yeah.
So when he uses that languaging, for example, that analogy, I go, oh, no, you're breathing fine. You're breathing fine. So I have to, first of all, I have to think about what kind of languaging am I using and analogies and, and metaphors in my own life, right?
Right.
So I had to say, no, it's okay. I know I'm breathing fine. I don't want to use an analogy like that. But it is a metaphor. It is a metaphor for, and I do think that, as you were saying the other day, and I thought it was really, really beautiful and wise, that if I go, if I become that little virus guy or gal or it, I go, what's my positive intention here?
Yeah. What am I bringing?
What am I bringing? So am I taking a gift to a different part of the system at the cost of another part of the system, as we often do, so that kind of, so this is a great gift for Mama Nature, but maybe not such a great gift in the perception of some parts of humanity. They said more baby turtles were more, so I go, it's a gift, but for whom? And,
in like a bigger picture.
A bigger picture, right? What is it like being again, I have to be careful of the languaging, because some people use quarantine, some people use the word isolation. They all have different meanings, right?
Or retreat.
Yeah, or retreat. I call it the grandma homestay. I'm on the granny homestay. And what is it like? Well, it's a little bit like, some memories came back of being a young Catholic girl who went to Catholic school, private school for 8 years in a mission school, right? Had 3 rooms and 3 nuns who I loved. And in the 1st and 2nd grade were in one room, and the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade were in one room. And the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade were in one room. And it reminded me of those dreams to become a nun, and maybe be a nun who lived in a cloister and only prayed all day. So it has some of those aspects, right? So if that's what you mean, I think it's a great thing to do, and it takes us down different highways in our thinking, and it also is a place to find opening space in our thinking, like with the bigger metaphor. But also take us down the highway of paths, a little bit, and can be humorous.
Right. Yeah, I just thought in terms of being open and creative, and just kind of open a new way of thinking about the same situation. I'm noticing when I'm influenced much by the pictures that are presented from the news, from the from different medias, that the way they're presented, they have one direction of how to impact us. And I'm noticing it doesn't have a
fear.
Exactly. I'm noticing it really goes right into my limbic system and it activates survival mode. And I'm not very creative then. I shut everything down.
Absolutely, girl.
But it's there, right? I mean, the information is there. And I was just shopping, grocery shopping. People are wearing masks now. You can hardly understand them. So there are all these visuals that are having impacts that go right into the stress mode and
well, I call it feeding the demon. You know, that's the metaphor of the demon. So if I think about what are my perceptual demons or my perceptual tyrants, right, those are, you know, these feelings that I get caught in, these conversations that I get caught in,
right,
and this limited vision, like you said.
Exactly.
And all of these things are feeding that.
Right. Right.
So I have to have awareness, and that, you know, you're right. It feeds the demon, and I have to go, how much of that am I willing to?
That's right.
Let in.
So I was kind of looking at different versions, how to expand the vision again, how to activate creativity, and you know, one of the lens for me was metaphor. If I take that as a metaphor, in Gregory Bateson's sense, everything is a metaphor for everything else.
Exactly.
In a sense, and like, isn't that interesting? Here's an invisible thing that just comes without me really noticing, and potentially, depending on what happens, it restricts my capacity of breathing. And I thought, in my personal story, for example, my family story is I had problems breathing. I came to the world, my navel cord was 3 times around my neck, and there was an emergency of being able to do my first breath, and so there's a lot of stories around that, and I just realized, wow, I am so grateful every single morning, every single night I go to bed, and I thank my capacity in my body to be able to freely breathe on my own.
Yeah,
I haven't had that appreciation before, but I just realized, here's something, it challenges something I totally take for granted, and now I become aware of it. There is for safety for us and for others, the social distancing, so the physical local distancing, meaning if you're living alone, that means you are away from other people.
Yeah.
And I just realized, wow, that's a metaphor for me on one hand, that it's when I get out, people are supposed to have the proper distance of 2 meters or 1.5 meters. And I realized that's about 2 arms length. And maybe that's, if I take it in a positive way, it's a proper distance to gently start to have an appropriate beginning of a connection with another being that I don't know very well.
Yeah. I think that I get that, and I like it. And I was going to say, it also sort of, I mean, definitely what you're saying is absolutely accurate in terms of opening up metaphor, opening up the creativity, getting more vision, more freedom of movement, sort of emotionally through the body. Because even if the emotion comes, this emotion is like what, you know, and start to expand. So I think that's really beautiful. And I was thinking too, for me, it's also a question of going, even from that distance of whatever meters, you know, I'm not solid.
Yeah, sure.
I'm not a solid. I look solid, you look solid, but actually, you know, we can extend this space out to so include in a bubble.
Sure.
Whoever that other human being is, whether I know them or not, with a sense of joy, a sense of love, a sense of appreciation. Yeah, and we can do that. And I think that's part of what sometimes is happening. You know, I see 2 things when I'm walking in the park. You know, I remember one guy, before they said had to wear masks, but people were keeping a good distance. And, you know, actually they say 3 feet. But then they go 6 feet's probably better for most people, because they'll probably do 3 feet, right?
Right.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yes. Yeah.
But, you know, one guy, he's like, I don't know how to do the difference between feet and meters, but like maybe 2 or 3 of my houses away. Right?
That's a good distance.
And he's walking towards his car, and I say, hey, how are you doing this morning? And it was like no words. It was like this. I went, oh my God.
Wow.
This guy has got to be freaking out in there. God love him, And then 2 seconds later, here comes this old jogger guy, he's about 6 feet away. Hey, how's it going? I hope you're enjoying your walk today and in a beautiful day.
Yeah.
Da, 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 da. And I went, there's a difference. It makes a difference.
Totally. I mean,
there's a difference. It makes a difference. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. The difference that makes a difference. I'm noticing both too.
Yeah.
Like, either way,
so kind of interesting, isn't it?
Stay away. Your potential danger. Just don't.
Danger.
Don't even look at me. But I'm also noticing that I'm starting to have connections to people that I may have not noticed before.
Absolutely.
From the distance, more of an allowance, more of a permission to have a gentle look and a little smile and a little hello. And that's
people are seeing each other in a different way. Is that what you're saying?
Totally. And
I feel that too. Yeah.
I've really made an attempt myself to, take an invitation of nature educating us that it does spring and sunshine so beautiful, that I said every time I go out and there's a foreign person, I want to bring my being out in a way so that it's sunshine in a proper, safe distance to them, but just the way we kind of have maybe just a look and a little smile, that will create more of an additional springtime for all of us.
I mean, it's really nice. And I think I even think about, as you're saying that so beautifully, I was thinking about what it's like in the village when a person moves from one side of the village to another, just walking. He may not have any contact with somebody, but he might see somebody, or she might see somebody and go, kulele, hey, how's it going? And the answer is there in a song. And I think that would be a beautiful thing too.
Right. So how do you think we can creatively design a future that is a new now, a different one that's really desirable?
I don't know if we can design it, but I think we can start living it right now, and that through the living it right now, which is I think what we're doing, it will inform, the unfolding of the new visions that people have and how they want to be in the world, and organizations, and how, entrepreneurs want to be in the world and what they want to create and what that means. I think we can do that by practicing what we know.
Right.
That brings us home to ourselves, whatever that practice is. Sometimes I go to the park and I balance myself on the what do you call it, like a poles, you park a car against. They close the park so you can't park there, so I balance on the poles just as a way of coming home and bringing balance as a metaphor in life. I think whatever that is that lets you take a deep breath and let go, keep doing that. Think about how you're thinking. Think about, spend some time reflecting and going, wow, I'm really messed up today on this whole thing. How am I thinking about that I can start to soften and expand out? Really reflect on what you want to bring into your vision and what you want to bring into the future. And I would hope that comes out of these reflections and the creative process and using the metaphor. I mean, all of that will inform that new vision. And that's a beautiful thing, because that's thinking in a more systemic manner. And that's what's most important to me right now, is really thinking in a more systemic way.
Well, I've made a really conscious decision for myself to take this time, rather than reorganizing, changing my business, to right now really make myself available for the communities that I started to create, and to live our systemic learning and really be supportive. And if I take that as a metaphor, to give breath, like positive breathing, to all the little seeds that we started to plant, so that they can grow beautifully and so that the concepts of us being all interconnected and depending on each other and being coexisting creatures in a bigger scale, which is a lot about the teaching, and taking nature as a metaphor or as a mirror of who,
as a model, as a mirror. Yeah.
I use a lot of the mirroring, like here's nature and it comes through all these different seasons, and we are part of that nature. So this is the mirror of who we are in the relationship to it. And I loved one of the quotes that two actually, that I heard from Virginia. One was, healing the family will heal the world. And it's been coming back to me over and over again. And I feel like the world family is asking to heal our inner family, our real family, to really heal that world family on a big spectrum.
Yeah.
And then I heard her say that communication is to relationship what breath is to life. Yes. And I usually like to say that a quality, an artistic, a mindful communication is to relationship what deep breathing, like really, like full centered breathing is to life.
Absolutely. I mean, when I take a deep breath, it creates a union between my sort of inner and outer world. It's a spiritual communion with the outside world. It's a giving and a receiving, just like the trees are giving and receiving. Yeah. And I think, like, as Gregory Bateson used to say, every third grader knows that. How is it that we forgot?
Yeah.
How is it that we forgot? Because we get so busy. That I pray that one of the beautiful things about all of humanity having to take this interesting break is that we understand how the same we are.
Absolutely, right?
How the beautiful same we are, the same kind of fears, the same kind of survival strategies, the same kinds of creations, the beauty of all of that,
It really becomes so obvious how this is universal. There is no difference in terms of, where we are in the world. The virus is not saying, oh, hello, I just want to check on you. Oh, you have money? Oh, sorry, gotta go. Somebody else.
Yeah, we'll go to the next house.
We go to the next house. It really is. We're all in this.
Yeah.
But the last thing that was striking me too is, if it's true that it's the most vulnerable population that is really that we need to protect the most. And if I take that on the bigger spectrum as a metaphor for our individual selves, then it may be really interesting right now, thinking about the fear that comes right now, to what is the most vulnerable part in me that now I need to slow down and reconnect to, so that the larger family can start to freely move forward. Yeah. And to maybe take that as an invitation too.
No, I think it's a beautiful invitation. And when I think of just that word about what are my own vulnerabilities? What are my own fears? Can I hold those first of all and go, what is the growth potential there? Yeah. I think that's really important. And in terms of a leader, being a leader in a time of transition, authenticity, is key. And it's going to be all about the teams. It's not going to be about the individuals. It's going to be about the teams. And it's going to be inside teams, as you say. Yeah. Not only the inner teams in me, but the inner teams in the organization, in the relationship to the outer teams outside. And I think that's where Buddha will emerge, or the group hero's journey is the game's afoot, as Sherlock Holmes said, the game's afoot. So what a lovely conversation, my dear.
I really enjoyed that too, and taking the quote that I felt that we were giving such a nice breath into this communication, into this. Yeah. I feel very enriched. So thank you so much for your time.
Me too. Thank you. Takes a village.
It takes a village. That's right.
Take care, my sister. Okay. Bye for now. I love you.